Hello students, welcome to the class of Software Engineering. Today we will discuss the last topic of Module 1, that is Requirements Validation. So here till now we have seen about all the requirements, how to write the requirements, how to classify them. Now how to validate it. So that is very important. Validation of the requirements is very important. So we'll begin with requirements validation. So what is requirements validation? Requirements validation is the process of checking that requirements actually define the system that the customer really wants. So here it's nothing but you're checking the requirements. In the requirements document, you have specified the requirements. So now you're checking each and every requirement to see that it actually meets or defines the system what your customer requires. It actually defines the system what the customer really wants. Now, why this requirements validation is important? Because requirements validation is important because errors in a requirements document can lead to extensive rework cost when these problems are discovered during development or after the system is in service. Now, requirements validation is important because suppose you think in your requirements document there are errors and you move forward, you go for designing, implementation. Then what happens? Suppose you get problems in development phase or once you develop and put the system into service, you get the errors. You face the problems. That means those have come from your requirements definition. So you need to go back again. You need to change everything. Your requirements definition, then designing, then implementation, then again testing. So many things need to be done. That means there is lot of rework. Rework if you do, the cost is also more. Cost is more. Requirements validation. Now, during the requirements validation process, different types of checks should be carried out in your requirements document. How in the requirements validation, we will carry out different types of checks in the requirements document. What are they? We will see. One is validity checks. Validity checks means a user may think that a system is needed to perform certain functions. Further analysis may identify additional or different functions that are required. So validity checks means you're seeing whether a particular requirement you have specified, you imagine, it's going to provide some functionality. Okay. So one requirement you have specified, it will provide one functionality. But later after analyzing it, you might feel that you can add some more functionalities, isn't it? So that is validity check. Consistency checks means requirements in the document which should not conflict. Whatever requirement you are specifying should not conflict. There should not be different descriptions of the same system function. One functionality means you cannot explain in different ways. Don't explain or don't provide descriptions in different way for the same functionality. So that's why consistency check means requirements in whatever you are specifying in the document should not conflict, should not have contradictory meaning. Fourth one, completeness checks. The requirements document should include requirements that define all functions and the constraints intended by the system user. So completeness checks means you need to see that whatever requirement, each and every requirement in the document, SRS, should be complete. Means it should define the functionality clearly as well as the constraints also. Fifth one, realism checks. Means using knowledge of existing technology, the requirements should be checked to ensure that they can actually be implemented. That is realism check. So you must ensure that you can, by seeing the requirement, whether it can be implemented or not. So how can you think about it? That is using knowledge, previously made projects, previously made anything existing technology if you have, then you can ensure that you need to ensure that you can develop this one. Okay, you can implement this one. It's not just defining the requirement, you need to see that whether you can implement that requirement. Sixth one, verifiability. To reduce the potential for dispute between customer and contractor, system requirements should always be written so that they are verifiable. Always see to that you write the requirements in such a way that they are verifiable. Next topic we move on to is requirements management. Requirements management. Now, what is this requirements management? It is the process of understanding and controlling changes to system requirements. So, requirements management is nothing but the process of understanding and controlling changes to system requirements. So, here in requirements management, planning is very important. Planning is very important. Planning is an essential first stage in the requirements management process. So during the requirements management stage, you have to decide on first thing is requirements identification. Okay, first you have to identify the requirement. Each requirement must be uniquely identified so that it can be cross-referenced with other requirements and used in traceability assessments. Okay, so requirements identification is each requirement must be uniquely identified so that it can be cross-referenced with other requirements. You can cross-reference with other requirements and you can use in traceability assessments. So you can see what is the relationship between one requirement and another requirement. Second one is a change management process. So what is a change management process? This is the set of activities that assess the impact and cost of changes. So change management process it describes what might be the impact and what is the cost after doing the changes in your requirements. Third one, traceability policies. Third one is the traceability policies. These policies define the relationships between each requirement and between the requirements and the system design that should be recorded. So, traceability policies will define the relationships between each requirement. Suppose R1 requirement and R2 requirement or requirement and design. So the traceability policy should also define how this record should be maintained, how we are going to maintain these records. Fourth one is tool support. Requirements management involves the processing of large amounts of information about the requirements. So you know that there will be large amounts of information about the requirements. So you need to process those large information. So we have certain tools. Tools that may be used range from specialist requirements management systems to spreadsheets and simple database systems. So I said that for the requirements, for you have large amounts of information regarding requirements. So you need to process that large amounts of information. So for that purpose, you need some tools. So you can go for spreadsheets or database systems to store all those requirements, that is the data. So we'll see the diagram now. Requirements change management process. So first, identified problem, problem analysis and change specification, change analysis and costing, change implementation, revised requirements. So we'll begin with problem analysis and change specification. Problem analysis and change specification. So how will I begin the process? Okay, so first you are identifying the problem. Identified problem. The process can start with an identified requirements problem, that is your requirements problem, or a specific change proposal. You can begin with the change proposal. So you're beginning with some identified requirements problem or change proposal. So in this problem analysis and change specification, you are going to analyze the problem or the change proposal to check that it is valid or not. And results of analysis are given back to change requested or some other change proposals can be made. So you are analyzing the problem or the change proposal to check that it is valid, and the results of that analysis are given back to the change request, or the results of those analysis will be given to change requested who is requested for the change, or some other change proposals can be made. Second one, change analysis and costing. So we have seen here. So we need to see that if you implement that change, what might be the impact on the system. So effect of proposed change is assessed using traceability information. Cost of making change is nothing but modifications to the SRS and design and implementation. So any change you are making, that means that you have to change the design, change in the SRS first, then in the design, then in the implementation. So cost, imagine the cost is high here. Third one is change implementation. Now I have to implement that change. Now you have assessed it and you have come to point that this is the cost and you want to do the change that can be done in the change implementation. So you are going to implement the change. That means you have to do modifications in the SRS, then design, and lastly in the implementation. Make changes to SRS without rewriting or minimize the external references. So try to make it modular as possible and make individual modules or sections and change it so that it won't affect other parts of the document. So you need to make modular as it is possible. So you need to make individual modules or sections and then change it so that it's not going to affect other parts of the document. Thank you.